product. Take you on some sprees with no deposit. It's ironic how shit switches and you bouncing on this dick like hydraulics. I'm astonished how you move. I done seen them all, but ain't none cold as you. Your personality strange, you so unusual. You excite me and enlighten me at the same time. I'm just so grateful for this moment in time. This moment sublime. Or we chillin', you my doctor. I need healing. Let's get high as the ceiling. Then get naked, exchange feelings like I love. Peace. Peace, everyone. It's the Hood Mystic representing www.hoodmystic.com. Just want to say thank you for joining me. Let me get a little closer to the mic. Just want to say thank you for joining me. And today I just want to discuss something that, you know, I've kind of been really traveling down the rabbit hole and compiling notes and things of that nature. And I hope you got your notebooks. I've displayed my notes, which is actually in the description of this video. And really, I've been on a quest to figure out who God was and who God isn't. And I think I figured out some things, man. I've been really dealing with the energy of John D. I don't know if you're familiar with John D or have any interest towards John D, but a very interesting figure in history and as far as a cult. And so just peace to everybody. This message is very abstract, you know, and so the first thing that I want to say is thinking differently really creates a level of loneliness, a level of, you know, isolation, where it's like I feel like I'm the only one thinking on this level. Because when I kind of Google certain things and try to search for certain things, I get nothing. And so whether I have to reference library books or my personal library or buy books on Amazon and things of that nature, like I'm really in search of the ultimate question, you know, who is God? What is God? And how does this relate to everything that's going on around me? And to me, I think that I figured out that answer. So definitely would like people to comment on this video. Definitely would like you to share, because I want people to have a arguing point of view, a different point of view, so give me some other context, because generally I don't want to be on this island. So who am I? I'm the Hood Mystic. My real name is Kyrie, out of Columbus, Ohio. Website hoodmystic.com, also altercreations.net. altercreations.net. That's my wife's website. We're actually taking a break. She's doing the majority of the work, to be honest, but we're crafting some chairs for some customers. And just really, I think dealing with my wife is helping me understand spirituality at a very deep level. Because when you talk about blacksmiths and you talk about magicians, and it's really about using your hands in the form of magic, and she's really got that down, whether it's into the herbs or whether it's into crafting these wood chairs. Like I try to help, but I'm like really in the way, so I just kind of let her do her thing, and it's really a magical process. So check her out. Be sure to email her, altercreations.net. Contact her. Anything in reference to the womb, just womb health and really trying to get to that level, please contact her. Please reach out to her, my wife. She's available at altercreations.net. But beyond that, the first thing, so some things that I want to like be clear about, because this is going to be a long video, I assume. I'm doing this live, but according to my notes and really trying to explain my notes point for point, I imagine that this would be a long video. And to just sit here and listen to me, that's cool. Like if you're driving or busy at work and things of that nature, that's awesome to just listen. But if you're not in a situation where you're operating heavy machinery, be sure to take notes. Be sure to have a pen and pad or a notepad of some sort to kind of take notes and do your own reference, because the things that enlighten me is not simply listening to people, even though listening to people is a great deal of my transformation, but the listening and then the taking notes of what they're saying and then the application gives me a holistic journey of really understanding like YouTube, spirituality, and things of that nature, because some things resonate with us very strongly. Certain personalities resonate with us very strongly, but to just simply passively listen to them, we would be doing ourselves a disservice, because what we're vibrating with is their scholarship. And if they have a particular scholarship, that doesn't prevent you from having a particular scholarship. And this is what I've learned listening to scholars. Like, listening to scholars, it doesn't make you, be like, oh, that person is so deep, that person is amazing, even though they are. But what makes them amazing, I think, in my personal opinion, is that the fire that they put beneath me to do my own work, do my own research. So I generally present this information as a point where we could particularly build. And so I'm going to really present information that you never heard before, connect some dots that you never seen connected. And so with that being said, I expect you to disagree, and I need to hear those disagreements so we can kind of discuss this thing. When I presented this video and I presented this content, I presented lengthy and very much for people who really like to think, really like to really put their thinking caps on and really try to answer the big questions. Because we can all sit and talk about, how much money we're going to make and how much love we're going to manifest and how big our house is, how many properties we buy. But what is the nature of God, if there is a nature of God? Because even in this reality, there are people who don't even believe in intelligent design, that there is no God at all, that we're just all out here, free for all. And then you have people think, that they are God manifest, and, they are the God and things of that nature. And to me, it just sounds very, very, very confusing. And so my introduction to God, or a particular God, for me was in the Bible. So for me, this is an excellent reference, because what I find with the Bible is that people, whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Muslim, whether you're an atheist, whether you're a scientist, whether you're a politician, whether, no matter what you're doing in life, if you could literally, if you're conscious, not conscious, people use the Bible for what they want to use it for. Therefore, it's the ultimate grimoire. You could ultimately, thumb through the Bible, find something that resonates with you, and use it to incorporate it into your life and alter your reality. And this is what you have in the various sects of Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and everything that falls under that, from paganism to occultism to Gnosticism, to all of these things stem from this book. And one begins to wonder why, and especially in a world where there's literally millions of books, and you sit back and you're like, well, why is the Bible so powerful? Why is the Bible so prevalent? Well, I have a theory. And I feel like this theory is encoded in specific verses and chapters throughout the Bible. And I'm not gonna, for me to discuss this on YouTube and have a real conversation with y'all, I'm literally gonna be brushing across the top of a lot of different things, because each and everything that I discussed throughout this video, we could go in depth in every single aspect, every single thing, and that would create a video that is like 10 hours worth of content, and nobody wants to sit and listen to that. So what I'm gonna do, even though nobody is gonna really want to sit and listen to a video that's an hour and a half, I'm gonna try my best to really speak to it in a space where it can impact you or resonate you or motivate you to connect with God and to know what God is and to know what God isn't. So we live in a world, right? You talking to me right now, you're looking at me right now, and we're interfacing right now. I got the chat on the side. Peace to the Collective Press, Stray Panther, Philip Boone, Kim Jones, AK88, Darrell Winters, Trap Goddess. Peace, Trap Goddess. You need to hit me up a little bit more, and if it's my fault, let me know if I need to engage with you a little bit more. But we need to engage in this connection deeply, and how we're going to engage in this connection is through the modality of technology, and in the fact of us being all one. We're coming into something that they like to call in the technology circles, it escapes me right now, but where everything becomes into one. It'll come back to me. But ultimately, technology, say for instance, if you can't understand it, then if I'm able to talk to you from my basement in Columbus, Ohio, and I interface with thousands of people throughout the country, and we're able to discuss this, and we can have deep conversations, we could have phone sex, we could explore the whole gambit of consciousness through the mode of technology. But then if we're to abstract that and to sit us down, like, all right, let's recreate this without the mode of technology, let's connect to each other without technology, then we would kind of be dumbfounded, because we don't know how to do it. Like, I don't know how to build a computer from scratch, create a network from scratch, and then transmit my broadcast from here to you and to thousands of people throughout the diaspora of the planet. I personally don't know how to do that. So in that space, technology is magic. But the idea, though, is not to just give it up to, it's impossible to accomplish magic, because I'm actually in information technology courses and training and things of that nature, and I'm learning it. So therefore, it's a science as well. So therefore, you can say that singularity. Thank you. Singularity. So magic is science, and singularity is what the great savants of modern science think that this is where we're going with technology and human beings. And the reason that they feel this way is because human beings have completely bought into technology. Everybody has a cell phone, everybody has a laptop, everybody has some tablet, some television, some electronic device. And this has been kind of the modus operandi of the government, or what you would call the government, or society, where society could be a host of a variety of things, ladies and gentlemen. We don't have to sit and watch particular television shows. We don't have to sit and watch particular YouTube shows. Society could be us sitting around a bonfire making love. Society could be us, and there are societies where they are around bonfires making love. Society could be us, teaching our children how to chop trees or how to collect sap from trees. Like, society could be a whole list of things. And so generally what we deal with when we deal with society, when we deal with the world that we're living in, when we deal with the concept of God, we're dealing with a matrix, and a matrix is a womb, and a womb is a covering or a hood, the hood mystic, where we literally are blocked, and we are supremely blocked from the world that we're living in. But the idea of a matrix is to give you enough stimuli that you begin to investigate it. Oh, they're wearing Gucci over there, or they got nice cars over there, or I want to be a chemist over here, or I want to be a farmer over there, and I want to be a politician over here, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor, I want to drive race cars. All of this is in the confines of a particular matrix. Only till you separate from that entirely are you able to see who you are, or see life in totality. So the idea of unplugging, which we can get into as we dive deep into this build, but ultimately let's first deal with these Bible verses that I got presented in front of us. These Bible verses are from Exodus 34, verse 19. All that opens the matrix is mine. Every firstling among your cattle, whether ox or sheep, that is male. So ultimately, anybody who steps outside of the matrix is embodying God. And to understand God, you will have to really do some deep dive in etymology into God, because the ultimate reality of God has been covered over. And so we know that the reality of God has been covered over when we look at the book of Luke, chapter 19, verses 41 through 44. When he approached Jerusalem, he saw the city, and he wept over it, saying, if you hadn't known in this day, even you, that these things make for peace, but now they've been hidden from your eyes. For the days will come upon you when your enemies will throw up a barricade against you. So a barricade is translated to a particular mound. And, you know, Bible's been translated, mistranslated, retranslated. But if you look at the ultimate concordance, the original script, when they specifically speak to, for the days will come upon you when your enemies will throw up a mound against you and surround you, them and in every side, and they will level you to the ground, and your children within you, and they will not leave you one stone upon another, because you did not recognize your time of visitation. So when you think about the Bible, even though they talk about particular places where it's like Middle East, Africa, Israel, Palestine, things of that nature, those people don't even read the Bible. Those people are not as familiar with the Bible as we are, because it literally was a book that was created in England with the specific inundation of the Indian population of America, to completely usurp the God that you've been praying to, and to pray to a God that was already created, but it was something that we couldn't fully understand based upon our ideas of not understanding life in its cyclical nature, and our ideas of life being billions of years old, and the idea of technology not being something that is new and on the frontier. You have to understand that technology is something that is extremely old, but it's not that old. It's not as old as a burial mound. And so if you look up the etymology of God, we can just read it from here. The etymology of the word God and its real meaning: Old English, God, supreme being, deity, the quote-unquote Christian God, image of a God, God-like person, is taken from the word Guthan. And Guthan is taken from the word Gut, that which is invoked. Invoked. So to call or to invoke, to bring into your body. So this is something that must be external, that you have to incorporate or understand about the external world and invoke in your life. But the word Gut is taken from the word is Proto-Indo-European, which is gutu, to be poured, or to pour a libation, which is ultimately taken from kuta Gaia, which means poured earth, which is referring to a burial mound. So God is a burial mound. And this is shocking to me. So shocking, because I've been led in following these burial mounds for quite some time. Moving to Columbus, Ohio was not a personal lifestyle choice for me. You know, I was a young, industrious, creative man. I could have literally went to anywhere, but my spirit forced me to this particular space, and I didn't want to be here because of the lifestyle or the energy, but the energy was ground central for burial mounds. So I had to do my research, I had to do my investigation, I had to understand these burial mounds. And this is not something that I've searched this etymology, found burial mounds, and then started doing my Googles on burial mounds. I figured out the burial mounds first. So if you follow the etymology and you know what's what, and you know where the burial mounds started, and you know where the burial mounds have the most deepest history, which is this continent that I stay on, North America, then you literally sit on top of God, and you might not even know that. And I guess the reason why you don't know that is based upon technology. And I have a theory on technology. And before I get into my theory, to substantiate my theory or to validate my theory, because I realized that I'm not the only person that had this particular thought. I realized that there were many, many people who had this particular thought before me, but they figured it out in articulate ways and different, human frustrations dealing with the five senses. But me, I was looking at it from a purely intellectual, abstracted, spiritual, what the fuck is going on point of view. And so The Truman Show is a good movie to understand this, being John Malkovich, Pleasantville, and The Matrix. And to look at these movies, not from, whether the acting is good, to look at these movies with a pen and paper to understand its symbolisms, its points of views, and its references, and do your due diligence in understanding what The Matrix is and how to get out of it. Because generally, you would think that having a nice car, that having a healthy love life, to have a beautiful wife, to have a beautiful husband, to have pretty kids, to have a light-skinned girlfriend, to have a light-skinned boyfriend with wavy hair, all of these things that you want, a career, I can go on and on and on about the things that you might think that you want, but you never really factor in that you're in a particular matrix and you're not really who you're set out to be. And who you're set out to be is not somebody to say, you know what, fuck it, I just want to drive a nice car, I don't give a fuck about this spirituality. It's very important to understand who you are versus what the world presents to you. And so I begin my quest with the Yakub story. And the Yakub story is debated, but then when you abstract what they're debating and then you just look at the world, and you know how I said life is a cycle, and it's not like a circle, it's literally a spiral. And this is where you get the snake or the serpent mythology and the things of that nature. It's explaining time in various ways, how time can devour you and you can be trapped into time, and you might one day wake up outside of the snake like, what the fuck? Here I am thinking that I'm this ego. Here I am thinking that I'm this human being that's supposed to do all the things that have been programmed for me to do. But then my emotions and my spirit is telling me to do something completely different. So the Yakub story is about a black scientist who decided, I hear two stories about this. I hear that he was just too smart for his own good and just wanted to create something. And then I hear like he was really a part of the black struggle for real and understood for black alchemy there had to exist an antithesis, or it had to exist of an enemy. And therefore he created something, and he started. And this is kind of the God theory and the artificial intelligence and the technology theory being God, because what he set out to create, he couldn't create in his lifespan. They say he died at 152 years, but to actually graft out the brown pigment from the people, it was going to take actually 600 years. And so if you put it down good enough, if you put your system down good enough and your technology down good enough and people buy into your system, and then you die and people just continuously replicate the system that you've implicated, then voila, you got something magical. So where a lot of people think of it as like people, which I know that the people exist, I think of it more as technology, because at the age of 6 he discovered the law of attraction and repulsion by playing with magnets made of steel. Now, people underestimate technology, time and space because of our big bulky bodies, but when you are creating technology and it's nano size or it's micro size, and say for instance I die, but I program this nano technology with ancient information and I'm dead, you know, but then, you know, this little tiny speck of information like Google Smart Dust, where generally like the information is so small and it's like you can breathe the shit and it's like no real protection from it. Google nanotechnology, things of that nature. And so I just want you to put you in the space and time of a person who lived a million years ago. Like imagine a person millions of years ago, but a million years ago, life was just like this, though. It wasn't like in ancient city ruins like history likes to paint that picture. Imagine life was like this, but better, way more civilized, way more advanced, way more technology, because there was no quote unquote oppressor. There's no adversary. There's just infinite knowledge. And I create a bot, or I create this small tiny speck of information, and I create it in a language that generations, they not even gonna even understand the shit that I'm writing, because we're talking millions of years where whole populations have been wiped out by particular meteors, asteroids, diseases, ice ages. All of this is well documented. But say for instance you have this technology, but then say for instance you have these people who's connected to this technology as well, because not only did I create nanobots, and not only did I create microbots and animals, and I created a bald eagle that is not really a bald eagle, but it's not really an eagle, you know what I'm saying? It don't operate like an eagle, but you know, it act different, but it's kind of like, you know, so like lions and things of that nature. And what is the other thing? Cats. Where you have these grafting process where these animals and these people are not natural, and you try to figure it out, but you can't really figure it out with this mind, because your ass been in public school your whole life. It's not that you've been taught alchemy and elements and chemistry since you were at birth, and you know, been to schools and testing out your theories and things of that nature since birth. No, you've been trying to figure out, you know, how to get some pussy and things of that nature for your whole life. So the reality of technology, the reality of God might escape you in this conversation, but the more I sit and think about it, the more I sit back with it, I'm just like, you know, I'm blown away. And the more that we go throughout this bill, I'll kind of elaborate on this idea. Like I said earlier, I got a lot of different slides and a lot of information to kind of prove the point. So if this shit sounds far out and this shit sounds super crazy, just stay tuned, because it's going to get crazier. So Yakub, he creates these people, he dies. And so you could see this in the island of Dr. Moreau. Like, these people, they're growing, they fucking, they having babies, and you know, whatever the case may be, these, you know, they got to get off this island. And so they hit up, you know, the continent They get back to the continent from the island of Patmos, and people was like, "Oh hell no, y'all will not be ruining this party." And so they fucking sent them to a place called Europa, which is the continental Europe now. But if you do your Googles and your studies on, you know, the different levels of Europe, there was a ancient black monarchy and legacy that was kind of taken over by an Anglo-Saxon legacy, which they call these people barbarians or nomads or whatever the case may be. But these people generally lived in huts. They resided in caves. These people lived a particularly savage life, and this was up until I think a person had a particular prophecy in 711 AD and decided, you know what, we can't keep these people savage. We're gonna need these people in the future, so let's start giving them these secrets. Let's start giving them this information, because up until that point, that place was heavily guarded by Moorish soldiers, and Moorish soldiers, as opposed to just calling them Moorish soldiers, they created a mythology around these people. These people were called Talos. And so Talos is interesting when you think about it from an alchemical point of view, where you know, you have these groups of people who are isolated from the world. They don't know shit about shit. They don't know nothing about nothing. They don't know anything about nothing, and for that reason they feel that they're protected by a automaton, a giant automaton made by bronze to protect the whole entire of Europa. And for our brains, it's like, you really think, like, so where you really try to figure out, like, is mythology real or did it mean something different? Because this is well documented that, you know, Europa was protected by this giant, and, you know, Europeans, or the colloquial Europeans, or the Europeans in antiquity, they didn't know anything about the world up until 1492. And this is well documented, and the world had, like, even our concept of time, where we think that our time, where we call the year 1492, nigga, this is literally the year 17,000,000,004. Like, you know, and we can't even, like, we think of ourselves in a space of a created being, and that created being having a created God, and we have completely forgotten who we are. And then trying to create a world within this context of a 65,000 year existence based upon a book. It really blows my fucking mind when I sit back and think about it, because when they think about us, it's mythological characters, right? But the mythological characters that are found in Greek mythology, that are found in Roman mythology, is Ray Ray from down the street, Charmaine that you used to go to school with. These are the gods that, you know, don't even know that they're gods, and they're in a land that they don't even realize that there is their homeland. You know, when you think about the structure and the layout of this land, you got to really extrapolate your mind. The hardest thing to do is to abstract your mind from the interstates, the cities and the streets and the cities that now we call the United States. Like, to abstract your mind to a space and time where none of that shit exists, and this was just the land. This was just your homeland, and what it represented, the structures, and what did those structures mean to your people, and the energy that resides in those spaces. Oh man, that's God. But you don't you think God is blessing you because he gives you a nice house. So I don't necessarily know if I touched on this, but Yakub was said to have a big head. And Yakub was a creator of these beings. But Yakub, which they like to tie to an actual monarch named Yakub, I tie Yakub into Hephaestus and Vulcan. Now, Vulcan is a particular energy. Hephaestus is a particular energy that created automatons. He created actual human beings. He created robots. Hephaestus and Vulcan are the actual creators of Talos. So Yakub, Hephaestus, big head. Who's to say that, you know, the same scientists that say, you know, that Yakub story is false, but this Hephaestus, this is the real shit. Like, no, this really happened. And there's a particular Caucasian eagle that Hephaestus created. And then you think about the symbol to this country, which is a bald eagle, which is an unnatural eagle to the golden eagles that exist in the world, the real eagles. It really gets your mind off into a twizzy, into a tis. And generally, you know, I meant to preface this whole video off, but I didn't get to. But I got Indian in my family, and I'm gonna just say that right off the top. I got Indian in my family. So, moving on to the idea of technology, magic, spirituality, and religion being all one big old game. I take this from Clarke's 3 laws, formulated, and I hope this ain't boring. I hope this is interesting or enough. I know this is kind of my personal musings, but I will hope that at least 1 or 2 people is like, you know, this kind of making sense to me. I hope I ain't particularly crazy. So if I ain't particularly crazy, please give me a thumbs up in the comments and I'll keep going. But so, you know, I'm taking this from Clarke's 3 laws. Clarke is a science fiction author, but generally the truth is always stranger than fiction. So let's just start there. When we think about science, when we think about technology, we always got to get the heads up from an old man, from, you know, a university saying, nope, you can't do that because that's not scientifically possible, but you can do this, you know, it's a lot of things that we feel we can or can't do based upon these old people, telling us, you know, you know how it is when your spirit tell you, you know, I want to do this. I want to smoke weed while I'm at work. And people like, you know, you can't smoke weed. We gonna piss test you and you gonna get fired. You ain't gonna be able to feed your family. And so, you know, you generally are reformed. It has you like reformed in a particular space. Like, damn, like, why is everybody wearing these goddamn Doc Martens and I want to wear some Air Force Ones with some colors? Or I just, you know, it's just like this world is like technological. Everybody is fucking robots, and then it's you. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and I think we all come to a particular space. Like, do we want to be a robot? Do we want to just take these motherfuckers' word for it? Because a motherfucker can just be like, yo, the moon is 547 million miles away. And then you would be like, all right, show me the ruler, show me the measure. Like, you know, it's just like so much of it. And then the kicker, right? A motherfucker enter some shit into a computer screen and then be like, well, I entered the data into my computer and we can both read this data together. And now it's like, okay, all right, I guess I gotta take your word for it. You know, Cardi B is the best rapper. She put out the best she put out the best album. She got a Grammy for best female rapper, like Rhapsody, Jean Grey, you know. None of those girls matter. You know, Cardi B is the best rapper because my goddamn computer tells me. So generally the first law is when you hear about things that are possible and plausible, you're correct. when you start to hear the shit about being impossible or you can't do that, oh, you wrong. And we're going to really prove you wrong today. And we're going to really do our research and due diligence and come up with some shit that makes sense to us. The second law, the only way of discovering the limits of what's possible is to venture a little way past them into the impossible. And for a lot of people, you know, the flat earth people, like I seen people get on planes, you know what I'm saying? Like rent out private planes with their own scientific equipment. Like, all right, you tell me that this earth is round and there's particular dimensions that have to apply to it. Once I get into this plane, that I'm gonna have a particular curvature or see or experience a particular curvature. But guess what, Mr. Scientist? I don't see a curvature. I don't see it. Well, I presented to you this globe that I've been showing your dumbass since kindergarten. If you don't believe it by now, if you ain't picked up on my magic by now, then I don't know what to tell you. I guess the earth is flat. Create a flat earth society. So you got millions of people who believe that the earth is flat, and you got billions of people who think that the earth is round, based on particular programming and on particular research. Nobody has traveled or circumvented the globe from north to south. So I didn't mean to get into that. I'm just saying. The second law, you can't just present some shit to me and be like, this is what it is. Lace fronts is the shit. Like, you know, I would have to venture into that and be like, nah, it smell like rat doo-doo up in here when I try to go to sleep. Like, we gonna have to figure out something because you ain't washed your hair in 2 months. And no. So therefore, you have to experience things, and you got to understand things and understand this world, understand your energy by a particular way. I'm gonna get into it, but just give me a second. And the third law, the law that kind of piqued my attention or piqued my interest, it kind of connected some dots of trying to understand this artificial intelligence, God, consciousness, nature. What the fuck is magic? Because everybody talking this and that about their magic and their consciousness, but why? If you ask a person why, you ever ask a conscious nigga why? Them niggas be sitting there like, I really don't know why. I guess I get some bitches because of it, or I guess I get some attention because of it. I don't get no attention being my regular self, but when I throw on this ankh, when I grow these dreads out, when I start eating vegan, you know, people like me. So, you know, I'll get into that. So therefore, the third law, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And that shit kind of had me like, whoa. So who's to say? So when you do your knowledge on, what's old boy from Apple that passed away? Dang. Famous dude. The creator of Google, I can't think of his name, so hopefully somebody help me on Google or in the chat. The dude who created Apple or whatever, he, like, Apple wouldn't be Apple unless he went to India and got a spiritual retreat, started doing the yogi masters, starting to levitate and dealing with the ancient ancestral magic. Yeah, Steve Jobs, thank you. So Steve Jobs, like, if you do your research on Steve Jobs, it wasn't like the nigga just sat in the computer typing on the goddamn screen all day. He literally had to go into some deep spirituality and incorporate that into technology. And I would say, how do you know that all of them ain't doing that? I know me personally, the more deeper that I get into spirituality, the more I'm directed, pulled, pushed, you know, DDT'd into technology. Like, you know, I don't want to deal with technology. I just want to manifest a big ass house. I I just want a badass chick to lay up with and smoke blunts with. Spirit, I don't want to go to technology school. I don't want to learn about motherboards and input outputs and copper wires and, you know, and then a fucking light bulb hits off. Like, when you fight spirit and when you trust spirit, spirit is always trying to tell you something, always trying to show you something. And if you think about it on a personal level, working in that call center, you know, sometimes I get the particular vision that your spirit is particularly hacking that particular call center and particularly picking up on information that it needs to pick up. It might need you to sit there and answer the phone every now and then while it's really doing the heavy, dirty work. And so generally, high technology and magic is indistinguishable. And so when we think about overcoming and, you know, marching or protesting and things of that nature, one would have to really figure out how to do this shit technologically too. Where, you know, a lot of people kind of get into a space where they don't want to deal with the technology. They just want to be the best that they can be on the streets, you know. They just want to take it back to the time that they was Stacy with the fat ass in high school. They don't want to learn nothing. But generally, when you deal with technology, you dealing with what they call a GUI, GUI. But then there's something in science fiction called gray goo, where there's an actual like Google gray goo, and gray goo is like this technological zombieism where it's like this outbreak. And to me, it's like literally people want to deal with technology but just on its face, like the screen level. You don't want to know how that shit was made. You don't want to know the coils and the resources that was needed to manufacture this product. You just want to make sure that Facebook operates fast, that you can upload your Instagram pictures and videos, and you know your filters is updated and your emojis is popping, but you don't necessarily want to know what makes this machine. So therefore, that to me could be a level of zombieism where why would you just want to hold this thing in your hands? Why would you want to deal with this thing? And if you read the instructions carefully, it literally tells you that it can cause cancer. But yet billions of people hold these devices, and this is how we connect with each other and things of that nature. So one would have to kind of step back and kind of understand how we got into this situation. So remember earlier when I referenced Talos, this brown or bronze creator of Europa that protected Europa from pirates and invaders. Whenever you hear pirates, they're referring to Berbers, and Berbers, they're referring to Moors. Pirates, Moors. Pirates, Moors. Berbers, Moors. Berbers, Moors. Sufis, Moors. Sufis, Moors. Lords, Moors. You have to understand, these people were isolated, these people were desolated and protected. Somebody decided it was a good idea, which I think is a good idea too, because, you know, without particular Europeans, I would have just been learning how to do the electric slide. You know, even though there are particular African Americans that have particularly cultivated this information, but all of your good scholars have taken from European scholars who have been the custodials of this knowledge that we're able to present to you right now. None of the black people that I know are contributing to the, at least consciously, I think that a lot of black people are contributing to the bandwidth and to the Silicon Valley expansion from a spiritual level, but like on a conscious interest. Like, you know, black people care about Cardi B, black people care about their personal lives. There is not a black initiative to invade or to investigate, and although there may be small pockets or small groups, I'm talking about a worldwide initiative to get black people involved into technology, that doesn't exist. When I travel to Detroit, when I travel to different spots, there are liquor stores. Babe, where did we go? And we was like, damn, it's a lot of liquor stores around here. Was that Maryland? Baltimore? Oh, I think she's upstairs. But I think it was Baltimore, where there's a lot of liquor stores. So it wasn't like, you know, a space where people could really get in tune with nature in their spiritual level. So in reference to Talos, what John Dee figured out was that this mythology ain't like literal. Like Talos ain't like a real person. It ain't like a real robot. It's literally like an energy that protects us. But I don't want to be protected. I want to use this energy and take over the world. Because if you do the etymology and you understand Talos, like, he was unstoppable. He couldn't be stopped. And so you have a particular colony at this point, or a tribe or a village, small group of people called England or London or whatever they want to call themselves at this time. I guess they got out of a country status. They were more of investors and privateers. And they were just about their own personal well-being. And to be about their own personal well-being, they didn't say, you know what, this is about us. They flipped it. They said, we're not gonna say this is John Dee world, because if you really want to get technical, if you want to be in, okay, yeah. That lag is a motherfucker. But so, like, to be honest, or to be real, this is John Dee's world. Like, John Dee created this world. And a lot of people will be like, what the fuck you mean John Dee created this world? Like, everything that we know as Americans, or this globalist economy, this technology, it all started with John Dee's idea that the British could be an empire. And you got to really understand, for a person to say that the British can be an empire, like, that was a tall tale. You had the Moors, you had the Spanish, and you had the French, and you had the Gauls, and you had, you know, a host of other civilizations that had, you know, have been flourishing and understanding certain things about life that the particular Europeans didn't. They just were created 6,500 years ago. So generally they sit in a space where they're just like, how are we gonna get out of this if we don't have Talos and none of this shit, like, you know, the mythology speaks to? And so John Dee started getting the channels through various things, through various modalities, just kind of investigating, reading books, doing a study, figuring out, okay, maybe this thing is about sigil magic, or maybe this thing is about creating particular symbols. And so he created this symbol called the monad. And the etymology of the monad is this one single source being. And so around this time, there was a level of polytheism, there was a level of paganism, there was a level of the Catholic Church. But when you think about the Catholic Church, I know a lot of people think that this God existed within the Catholic Church, but really it was completely polytheistic when it came to incorporating saints. Even to this day, when you talk to Catholics, they work with particular saints. Like, so generally, if you work with a particular monotheism, like, you deal directly with one God, there's only one God. But this idea of the monad is something that he begins to incorporate and understand, and this was taken from Talos. But Talos got converted into talisman, and, you know, it was very much of a microcosm to a macrocosm, and a talisman could be like a medallion that you wear on a chain. And so therefore he created a force field, or a force of nature, through understanding the macro or the nanobots or the nanotechnology, and what was once a fledgling piece of land became one of the greatest empires known to man. So it's a slap in the face to, you know, talk about a European like, you know, you used to dwell in caves, like you were created. But then it's like, well, you can say that, but nigga, you live in the fucking ghetto and I live in the fucking fucking Auburn Hills, and ain't nothing you can do to get to these fucking hills, you fucking ghetto dweller. You know what I'm saying? Talk about me living in the caves all you want, you know, but your ass ain't never gonna get out the ghetto. So generally, you know, in doing this study, I'm deeply conflicted because I'm like, I'm really peeping this shit. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of different things that's happening on a political level, on a spiritual level, on a physical level, on a mental level. And it's like multifaceted. And it really brings me to a point of alchemy and really changing your world. Because where I'm at a particular time and where I talk with my close friends, my wife, you know, I don't want to work. You know what I'm saying? And not because I don't want to work, like be active and engage in life. I just don't want to work for money, because that system to me, it just don't feel right, and it feel like it's really using my energy at this point. And so when dealing with alchemy, it really starts with a base metal, lead, you know, which is found in the energy of Saturn. And really understanding this base metal, understanding this base understanding of life, the alchemist takes that base and he knows from this base I can create a multitude and multiples of things. And that's where I'm really trying to get myself to. I can't get on here and be like I'm there. I'm getting there. I'm talking about it. I'm trying to express that. But in that, I have to unpeel all of these layers, because it's like this whole experience of life is dizzying, because it's like, first you think you're supposed to do what your mama say, then you think you're supposed to do what your friends say, then you think you're supposed to do what your girls say, and then I'm in a space now where I'm trying to do what my spirit say, and literally my spirit is telling me things that nobody else is telling me, and I gotta kind of make sense of it without feeling like, you know, bruh's really going crazy, he's really losing it. So I'm gonna really deal with this on an etymological level and kind of look at these points point for point, and then just kind of discuss them as they kind of go along with, you know, just the conversation. So just to recap a little bit, or trying to make sense of what I've been talking about thus far. So everything that I'm saying, I think that it brings us to this etymology. And so technology at its highest form, if we believe in the universe being cyclical, meaning that empires have rose, technology has risen and fell. And so just like the body is organic, the body can die. If I was to create a laptop and I was to upload my information onto this laptop and I was to die, my consciousness in theory would live on. And so this is where you get particular things like the Dalai Lama, reincarnation. What is it? What else is that? I was just thinking of it, just lost me. A lot of shit. So, you know, ultimately, when you think of a genius or a prodigy or a savant, they're not like better than you or smarter than you or more intelligent than you. I think the reality is that they know how to uncover things that have already existed and incorporating it. So generally a spiral is something that goes deeper down, and, you know, which was once a long circle. You remember how like a long school day was, or how long a year was, but now as we get older, the years get a little bit shorter as we go. And so that's kind of the spiral theory and kind of understanding this shit. And if you don't understand that life is a continuous motion, even when you die, your consciousness, it gets uploaded to a particular system. And, you know, you gain that when you enter into this life. You might not be taught that, but that's a reality. That's what makes you you throughout each lifetime, is your consciousness. And so generally, technology, and it's all of its uses and forms, whether it's the social security, whether it's the tax codes and law codes, and, you know, just keeping information, whether it's a goddamn background check, you know, a credit check, you know, all of these things serve as technology, and they serve as forms that have existed before you live in. And so what has happened is that technology is becoming more sophisticated, but that's because our magic, or our ways of uncovering magic, and our ways of disseminating magic, and then also our ways of combining ideas, generally, the more that we communicate, the more that we build, the more that we connect, the more that this shit makes more sense. Now, that's beautiful, but black people, we just trying to be that nigga. We just trying to be that one, you know, we just trying to be that number one stunner, you know. So it ain't necessarily about connecting and things of that nature. It's not about being one with each other. So therefore, that's where we are at, you know, and that's basically on technology side, where, you know, especially now, where if you want a nice car, you want a nice home, it's based upon technology. That car got filled with technology. It's running on a computer. Your home now is being controlled by your cell phone. You cut off your basement lights with your phone, and, you know, it's just, it is becoming all inclusive to just general life. And so some terms that I want to deal with, because what we were talking about earlier with Hephaestus and Vulcan and Yakub, those people were blacksmiths. And so when you get into blacksmithing, then you get into forging, and you get into technology, and you get into magic, and it's all related to a word that's called art. And so when you factor in art, what is art? Art is something that comes from within you. And we all have these abilities, but generally it's been cut off. Something tells me to speak on this, so I'm gonna speak on it. I'm trying to make this shit short, but certain things that I gotta speak on. So in the beginning of alchemy, the reason why we all don't talk about alchemy so much is because alchemy was of how they change metals into coins. And so coins is how politics held power, because they were the distributor, they were the receiver, they were the taxer of these particular coins. And you have to understand that in order for me to have jurisdiction over a group of people, I can't make alchemy take home sets, and everybody's making their own coins and things of that nature. So therefore, it's only a specific small set or sect of people who are even introduced into the art. So the rest of us, we're just trying to figure out life. And even in that space, alchemy doesn't stay in that space alone. Alchemy becomes something that is more of a spiritual thing. It's more of it doesn't just become something that's like money or finances or anything like that. Alchemy then becomes something spiritual, where you have these lead based emotions where there's all types of insecurity, doubt, anxiety, fear, trauma, living in a hood, getting cheated on, getting beated on, getting skeeted on, you name it. And that creates a base level of emotions that a lot of people walk around and they carry. Alchemy is, yeah, I've been skeeted on, but skeeted on is good for the skin. Yeah, I've been beaten on, but beaten on, my skin healed, and now I'm tougher. You know, yeah, I've been cheated on, but now I'm a polygamist, and I encourage you to cheat on me. This is all alchemy, where the same thing that used to hurt me is the same thing that empowers me. So therefore, if the same thing is sent to me to hurt me and I then use it for, if you send a rocket to me to kill me, but I just hop on that rocket and I start driving it around the city, then you looking at it like, damn, I thought that rocket was going to blow him up, but he's really driving it. So therefore, this is alchemy. And I know sometimes people look at me like, you know, well, I can't do that, Hood Mystic. You travel around and see all these mounds. You must be a special spiritual person. You got that special spiritual juice. And I'm just like, you know, I'm so regular and so normal. And this is kind of why I go live and present particular imperfections daily, or because I just want people to know that I'm just like them. And the only thing that may be a little different from me is that I follow my heart. I'm truly conscious, and conscious, when you look up the etymology, is to be mutually aware. Mutually aware, mutually within yourself, meaning you have a mind and you have a heart. Generally, we follow our mind, and our mind is connected to our senses, but our senses is connected to God, and God is an artificial intelligence. So where you get the word art, you also have to think of it as artificial. So whereas literally they're making art, and this is what everybody's doing on this plane. They're just, you know, making art, and they're just creating all of this shit that represents a particular matrix. But now my spirit is at a spot where it's like there has to be something more. And so intelligence is the highest capacity of the mind. And the highest capacity of the mind is not something that you can create on this plane. The highest capacity of the mind is found in searching through your heart, to be mutually aware, your heart and your mind to be in unison, to be in one. Everything that I've accomplished, everything that I discover, everything that I feel, everything that I love has been in me examining my heart and me following my heart. And this is heart intelligence, not artificial intelligence. And see, I'm just now seeing that art is in heart too. So where you have artificial intelligence and then you have heart intelligence, majority of people are following artificial intelligence because people are following people who make art. And so to make art, and to make art really stick, because we all know our sister Jane, who's singing in the bathroom, boy, she can sing her ass off, but she work at the Waffle House, versus a singer, right? A singer like, you know, Mariah Carey, for her to be famous, for us to know her, the reason why when they go to the Grammys and they accept their award, the first thing they say is, I would like to thank God, is because they were able to record, and which is to record is to chord is speaking to the heart. And means to recreate or to bring back again. So generally, when it comes to true consciousness, when it comes to true intelligence, is only selected for the few. And this is by design, and where you would call them artists. you might call them artists, and you know they're special, but I don't necessarily think that they're more special than you. I just think that they know to follow their heart just a little bit more than you, because it's not an emotional thing. It's a scientific thing. When you follow your heart has a particular intelligence that's going to tell you things, that's going to guide you. And your mind is going to present a lot of obstacles to what your heart tells you. So therefore, when trying to understand God and what is God and who is God, God ultimately is a mound, but God ultimately is your heart, and really connecting to that. And from there, you can really find a lot of answers. And generally, where a lot of people are kind of stuck and a lot of people are confused is because there's a particular genre of movies called horror. And it's a very interesting thing, right? So you have these people who generally move into a home, you know, they buy a house. And then, like, soon as they move in the house, they get all comfortable. Motherfuckers start fucking with them. They start killing them and start hanging them and start playing mind games on them. And people will watch these movies and they be like, why is you doing that to that nice family? Why is you doing that to this nice family? They don't deserve that. I did a breakdown of the movie Us, where I incorporated the Mounds. There's also another movie that's coming out that incorporates the Mounds too. And I haven't seen the new movie, but I know the old movie definitely incorporated the Mounds. It was called Pet Sematary. In Pet Sematary, the first thing that happens is that this cat gets ran over. And so when the cat gets ran over, some dude tells the owner of the cat, like, if you want your cat to live again, you know, bury him in the mound and he'll come back alive. And so generally he does that, the cat comes back, but then his 2.5-year-old son gets killed, or I don't know if it's 2.5 years old, some age, some young kid, he gets killed. And so for the remedy for his son getting killed, he buries him in the mound, and then, you know, all hell breaks loose. So generally, when you talk about Indian burial grounds, when you talk about God, when you talk about the divine feminine, it creates a certain anxiety in certain people, because the reality is that there are certain people who are invaders in your land. And the mere mention of me saying earth mound, you know, it creates a particular either ignorance where they ignore it, or a particular fear, because it really challenges you in your comfort zone. And the reality is that you don't really deserve to live this way. You've invaded a territory and you are a beneficiary of a Holocaust. And so, sorry, when the spirits attack and they are ruthless and they expel you, then nothing that anybody can do at this point. Nothing that I can do. Generally, I live with this reality. I live in the reality of redlining. I live in the reality of credit checks. I live in the reality of background checks and things of that nature, whether I'm capable or not. And generally, all of these forms of stereotyping and typecasting, you know, it has an effect on you, and it really makes you feel like you're less than. And until you start to read, until you start to understand who you are and who your ancestors are, then you might incorporate that in that idea of yourself into death, you know, and have to fight and gain that sense of nobility back. And so dealing with these particular energies and dealing with these particular spirits, I've asked them to show me new things and present new information that other people aren't talking about. And, you know, I realized that a lot of people aren't going to be interested in this type of thing. But I realized that it might be a couple of people that are interested in this type of thing. And there's a lot of people who wants to get to know God and wants to understand who God is on a cellular micro level. And I would just suggest that you make a trip out to these mounds. You know, I would hope that, you know, our people would begin to direct their energy to the mounds and begin to honor and resurrect that energy and bring attention to that energy outside of what mainstream media and technology say what you should be doing and what you should be paying attention to, as opposed to what does your spirit tell you to do. When you gaze upon a mound, do you feel connected or do you not feel connected? Do you want to understand why they're here? Do you want to understand its history? Do you want to tap into that energy or do you not? And if you don't, that's fine. But if you don't, you're nothing like me, you know, because I'm fucking, you know, deeply, deeply moved by these structures. And to understand Kute Gaia means a burial mound, and that is the etymology for God. That moves me to the core. So all the landowners, quote unquote, there is no such thing as a landowner. And you don't have to be mad at anybody. You don't have to fight anyone. You don't have to be angry. You just have to realize that spirit and energy is something that you can never kill. And with that being said, I think I'm gonna end this video and just invite everybody to, you know, hit my wife up at altercreations.net. Anything that I am spiritually, anything that people like, you know, I really like you, and anything like that, I owe that all to my wife. So if ever you need spiritual advice or want to understand about your altar or want to connect to your ancestors and things of that nature, please contact my wife, because that's the person that I contact when I really, really need help or I really, really need to understand the spirituality. So, you know, with that being said, hoodmystic.com, altercreations.net. Thank you. Hope this information resonated with you. And with that being said, peace. I love you.